Hello and welcome. As previously discussed and promised, I'm doing another video on a Shimano DX M071. As we found out, there are actually two versions of this shifter internally. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to work on the 3-speed side. This was the updated version, I'm guessing. I've got one side that I salvaged off a bike. The mech is completely broken. In fact, it's blocked. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to swap over with the other upgraded version onto the lever. So I'll have one spare, and that way I actually have less stuff hanging around in my place as well. So let's begin doing that. So I should be able to salvage some other parts to be able to complete this. The only thing I might not have is a seal plastic ring that went around this. Otherwise it should be fine. So we're going to take off this nut. It's number 10 and it's going to be coming off clockwise. For lift up the return spring. Another plate. Let's lift up this lever. So underneath it we have a nylon bushing and a very thin copper spacer washer. We're going to take off that pull, small clip that's right here. You'll need something sharp to get around it. Very much one of the first causes or problems on these shifters. These get gunky and block. Go ahead and lift this one up. There's a bushing again. We're going to take off this plate. That should be everything for now. So let's take off that clip. We should be able to take off this plate now. So there's the return spring for this lever. Let's lift that up. So there's another plate here. Lift up that lever. Pull. Spring here. There's hardly any tension on this. Don't know if we can see. I think the spring tip's there for that cam. Sprocket. There's a nylon plastic bushing. Very thin washer. Looks like the rest we're just going to pull out. And there's the spring that went underneath the cam. This pops out. All simple stuff. I'm going to now wipe all this down, degrease it, and then we're going to grease it up again. I've given everything a clean. We're going to put some grease on now. I'm going to be greasing it bit by bit to avoid the parcels sticking on the paper and sticking onto other stuff. Let's grab the cam and the spring. You'll see on the spring there's one tip that's sticking out. That will go into the slit right here underneath the cam. And the other tip of that spring that's sticking up towards us, that's going to go into the hole, which is right there at the end of my finger. It's the only one that's going through. So you can put the tip of that into there. Like so. For the axle part, I don't think there's any specific order for the moment. So we're going to just pop it in to here. So you want that to go through on the other end on that hole. When I took it off, it did appear to be roughly here. I think it's going to matter because the teeth are in a certain order, but we'll figure that out after. There's a thin copper washer that seats here, and you have this white nylon bushing part that goes on the top. There's this sprocket, so there's a little dot there facing towards us, so you want to seat that at the back. Grab this pull, and what we're going to do is we're going to recline this a little bit back, and I believe that this one was sticking into that tooth right there. So now that should hold everything open. And there was a spring on the top, so the long tip goes downwards in front of that pull. Still out there. And you have this other pull. Put a little bit of grease on those little pivoting parts. And from what I remember, this one was just like that in front of like a tooth. And we can put this arm in this position. Make sure that's all seated down. On top of here, we've got this plate that's going to seat in to the teeth. So you'll see those flat parts there laying flat, kind of, I don't know, in alignment with this tab. Before we have that plate though, we're going to have this return spring. So that hook part's going to go on the top of that pivot where we put that pull there. And the other tip is going to go in front of the lever there. So you'll need to kind of pull that back towards that part there. My cam just kind of slipped out, so I'm going to click that back into the position where I wanted it before. And we can put this plate on. That other tip of that spring for the pull right there, it's going to eventually go into the hole here. I think we need to put this on first, and then after we're going to put the spring in. So you see there it's just a little bit off our axe. I've just turned it and it should seat in now. So for that tip, that spring, we're going to use something sharp to just get underneath it and then bring it up underneath into that hole. There you go, it's in. We can put that C-clip now that holds this plate down. Let's put this pull back on the lever. We have the spring, which seems to be fairly symmetrical. So one tip's going to go just there in front, and then we've got this, and the other tip of that spring is going to go in front of the slit of that pull, so that you have something like this going backwards. And then we have the little clip that holds it in place. You can now take that bushing and the thin copper ring, which is going to seat into that lever. Next you have this little silver bushing. I believe that seats there on the axe, and this we're going to recline backwards, and that's actually pushing against the sprocket. That'll fit in like that. Let's take this part and insert it back on. You're going to need to find the correct teeth. And the next part, we're going to have a return spring, which is going to go into the right top hole facing towards us. So the tip of the interior of the spring that's facing upwards, that's going to go into the hole. We can place that down now, in fact. There. Now we can put down a nut. That other tip of that spring, which is here, is going to go in front of the lever. However, to avoid overlapping the spring, we're going to put the nut first. Makes it a lot easier. If you want to, you can put some thread locker on this nut. I'm not going to do that. So don't tighten this up too much. Now grab the knife. I thought it was actually here, the other tip of that spring. It's not, it's into the, there's a hole right there. So using a knife, you're going to put it towards that hole, not this one, the next one. You can now tighten down this nut. Make sure that underneath the spring isn't overlapping. Not too tight, we're going to test it. Oh yeah, I forgot to point that out. You can still kind of put it in though. That seal, which mine's missing, I actually got to go look if I can find one, but it would have gone before you put this lever. For the seal on the side, I tried to get one from a LX M560, and that doesn't seem to be exactly the same size. I also had this random Altus A10 shifter. It's actually quite alright. but unfortunately it's not compatible either. The little ring here, so I'm gonna have to leave it without one. What we can do though is put that little cover back in that gave us access to the lever. That seems to be compatible between both levers, the older and newer version. Let's put the cover back on. Let's put that back on the lever now. Okay, so testing this, it looks like it's working. Obviously I'm missing the barrel here for the brake. I haven't got a spare one like that, but at least it's more or less complete. So thank you for listening, and until next time, peace out.